When I was a kid, if I saw blood, I used to yell out, "Mummy, Daddy, Keithy, Ray Ray," which was two of my brothers and my mum and dad, because I was so afraid of blood and I hated needles. And then I got involved with nursing where there was plenty of blood and needles and poo-poo. But it was all good.
So yeah, we used to hear the stories of Mum growing up out in Mungandai and living on the sort of land out there, and it really hit home for me when I saw the photos of where Mum lived and did homeschooling, and they were pretty much shanty shacks, and that it all sort of painted a lot more vivid picture. That was probably 10 years ago when Mum went up there with Dad. They went back to Moree and had a look around.
Life for me as a child was wonderful. By and large, it was just full of excitement and full of adventure.
Yes, it was like a wild Annie Oakley. We used to have the gun, shoot the snakes and ride the horses and chase the pigs.
We had this little so-called schoolroom, and I'd have the 22 there, and I'd say, "Oh, I've got to go and look, it's a crow." I'd go and shoot the crow, or "Watch out, Evelyn, there's a snake there," and I'd blow the snake's head off, and everyone was all scared, and I'd say, "It's all right, don't worry about it, I'm here." And I was as wild as they come.
The cat's tail, she ran over it, and she got a great big sheet and wrapped the big sheet around this cat because she looked a bit crooked. Did she run over it? But she just doesn't get something small. She got this big sheet and wrapped it around this cat. Yeah. No, the bandaging has improved a lot since then. Yeah. It was a pretty poor attempt.
I was a bit of a risk taker. A bit of a risk taker in everything I did. I mean, I was driving cars, and I mean fast at 14.
Yeah, she was a bit of a villain. She drove the car when she was about 14. And she had a float on the back with horse because she wanted to go to Gymkhana or whatever it was, and she wanted to get there, so that's what she did.
This is a little article that was in the paper many, many years ago. Sue loves horses. Horses and riding were the main interests of Sue Carter, pictured above, until early this year when she commenced nurses training at Gosford District Hospital. Now, most of her energy and enthusiasm is devoted to caring for patients and study for her exacting career. Sue is 17 and is our choice of Teenager of the Year.
First met Sue at the local dance, which was down at the entrance and the hall down there. And it just went on from there. She decided she was going to go and do nursing and at Gosford, and said I was at Gosford High School, which is just across the road.
He left school in senior years. I left school in sub-senior years. In year 10, he left in year 12. So I was first year nursing at Gosford Hospital when Brian was in his last year at school. So occasionally I used to be able to get to where he could see me, and he used to walk across at lunchtime and we'd have a little bit of a chat.
I could see you, like I'll be out in the playground somewhere, recess or lunch or something like that, and occasionally she'd just see us walk down the steps and just sort of standing there, and I just walk across casually, have a chat with her.
We're in the room that I spent my second year of my training here, in this room which was facing the school. And then I'd go back to lectures or go back on duty, and Brian would go back to school. So that was a sort of a bit of a laughing concern with my colleague student nurses, and I think also with his mates at school.
Yeah, I remember the first time I did though, I didn't realise the whole school was watching. And yeah, when I walked back, oh, did I cop it? Yeah.
Well, this was the ramp that connected the old nursing home to the new nursing home back in '68, and that was where I resided for a bit over 2 years of my nursing training. It's at the end of the corridor, and I spent a lot of wonderful hours here. So I used to get one of my friends to open up the fire exit door, which I think was on the other side of the building, after 10:30, and I used to go up the fire escape often around 12 o'clock, naughty. But because those days we only had one late pass a week, and but we still had to be in by 12 o'clock. Other than that, we had to be in by 10:30. And I thought that was a bit tough when we had to be in the nursing home by 10:30, but we were dealing with life and death. So as a third year student, I formed a student nurses council and started to rattle a few people and get a few changes made. So I commenced a student nurses council, which I was president of, and got some things happening and got a voice for nurses, which was, nurses were quite subservient, but not this little chickie. I just thought, no, I'm going to speak up. And so I did. Mind you, I was often in matron's office, having been dressed down for one thing and another, but I survived and, as I said, graduated in '71, July of '71. I came across this sign that officially opened this particular building, and it was opened by Mr. Humphreys, who was the MLA member for Gosford at the time, in 1967. And it reminded me that I actually nursed Mr. Humphreys and his beautiful wife, and was with them in their last basic minutes of life. I looked after them during their terminal illness. Beautiful people and beautiful memories.
Yeah, I'm Roger McClellan. I'm a retired general surgeon. I came to the Central Coast in 1976 and set up in surgical practice and practiced general surgery, and I guess I met Sue early in the 1980s or the late 1970s as one of the professional staff at Gosford Hospital.
I admired him and respected him for the surgeon he was. I found him very matter-of-fact. I found him excellent in his post-operative results, and then when I started the business, he referred me clients from his practice. He had the trust in me. I think it was the trust that he could trust me with his clients post-operatively, and that's to look after them when he'd sent them home from hospital.
Well, there are a lot of staff at the hospital, and the ones that you consider are exceptionally good, you tend to stick around and support and look for, and Sue was one of those. She had a great work ethic, she was very skilled in her profession, and she did a very good job. She cared for her patients, and I guess when she spoke to me about setting up the Sue Mann nursing service, I thought this would be a great boon for the community, and I was very happy to help her.
The veterans were definitely the foundation of Sue Mann's nursing community care, because without the veterans, I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to have started such a bold venture 30 years ago. That's a single-handed nurse providing care for people in the home. We have our 100th year commemoration of the Gallipoli landing coming up very shortly, and I feel that to me is very special because I looked after one of the Gallipoli Anzacs in Harry Newhouse, and I cared for him for some years, and he was a very special individual that had a life, colourful, charactered person who I'll probably never forget. In those early days of developing the business, it really was important to have people that I could trust, and they had trust in me. And I needed to have a pharmacist that I could basically rush in with scripts or rush in with ideas that I had of products that I wanted to use on my clients.
She was demanding, but she had the right to be demanding. On a busy day, a few prescriptions there waiting to be done. And who comes through the front door? But Sue Mann. Oh no, we've got to look after Sue. The main thing that I've found about Sue, that her priority was her customers, or her patients, you might as well say.
What I admire most in Mum is, I guess, her passion for, caring for people, for having that empathetic view that, she's very confident in her own skill set and in her own skin, and she knows that there's a situation, she'll be able to step in and make a real difference to that person, to that family, I've never seen Mum say, well, that's too hard, that case, or, we'll give that to another provider, or, we don't want to go there. It's always been, there's someone in need, and Mum will come up with a solution.
Earliest memory of Mum working at home was probably when they took over my room, because I did get a better room out of it. But yeah, when the business got so big that they had to move into my first bedroom.
This is a photograph of myself talking on the phone, which I seemed to spend most of my time doing those days. And my first actual office, which was my daughter's room, Brooke's room, converted into an office, and there's my answering machine, which was very useful in those days.
Because we had two lines, we had the home phone and the business phone, and as we became old enough, Mum trained us to answer the phones.
It was good fun. It was good to see how Mum could make a family life fit around the business, and never felt like the business was a priority. It was always the family, and the business just somehow worked around it.
The thing that used to worry me more than anything was that did my family suffer in regards to not spending the time with them? And I've asked them many times, and they keep reassuring me they didn't.
I remember her being in the office without any shower, no breakfast. She just went. So there would be that, and then also the night time of just the administration, just constantly working. When she'd take me to ballet, all the other mums would be up there doing yep, and Mum would be down in the car doing her vouchers and her admin. It was the only time she could fit it in. So I remember that being pretty, just a real juggling act.
I mean, I did it all. I was the clinician, the administrator, did the girls' pays. They'd send it in on the back of an envelope, and the photograph is in the office on the wall with the pays coming in on the back of an envelope, the hours, and I having to do this pay book that I mean, oh my God, I was hopeless at maths, but suddenly I had to become okay with figures. Mind you, there's crosses out everywhere.
Yeah, I guess we had our challenges at times, I'd come, quite often, I wouldn't be here in the evenings so often, and that'd be difficult for Sue because she's had to manage the kids, coming home from school, and doing, just trying to do all the usual things that parents do.
Mum and Dad were sort of constantly coming and going. Dad because he had shift work, and Mum, really because she was juggling work and primarily looking after us. But the one thing that stands out in my mind, and I've said this to many people, is regardless of Mum's passion for her work, she never missed something that we did as kids, like every swimming carnival, every athletics carnival. Clearly with my dancing, she was there she took me to all the Eisteddfods and concerts and endless classes, so we were always priority. So I can only admire her, having now been in the position that I am. I don't know how she did it, but she did. And yeah, that's how I remember my childhood, is always having Mum and Dad there for us, and just being a really close family.
This is a photograph of the office staff before we moved, which would have been 7.5 years ago.
As the staff grew, it got bigger and bigger. The business started growing and developing to the point where then it was then too big for here, and that's where Sue and Andrew went out and started looking for other premises.
Children were brought up with the business, and particularly Andrew, who was younger than Brooke and probably even from more of a younger age, was very connected. And Andrew's always been very connected to the elderly, and he would, when we took him out shopping and that, he would talk to older people.
Andrew always had a business idea. He'd rattle it off as if he was 35, even when he was 17. And he never really seemed like a teenager. He just seemed like a man that hadn't left school yet. And he talked so maturely about these ideas, and even the fact that I remember the day I did the maths HSC exam, and I was terrible at maths. And I said to him, "How come you weren't in the exam?" And he said, "Well, I didn't do maths." I'm like, "But don't you have to do maths?" And he's like, "No, I rang up the Board of Studies and you don't have to do maths." It's like, you rang the Board of Studies and found out you don't have to do maths? I could have saved so much money on tutors if I didn't have to do maths. But that's just Andrew. He's just finds everything out and gets everything done, and researches everything to the nth degree and always gets an awesome result.
He saw an opportunity and came into the business and his own accord, and he has brought it to where it is, and we've grown the business to such a height that I could never have done this on my own.
We had a trip down to the snow one ski season, and snow is pretty variable down Parish. At the best of times, it was a cracker of a season that we had a 10 to do, and I remember Dad was driving down, Mum, Brooke and Mum and Dad, Brooke and myself, so there was the four of us, and I spent the whole time on the back of a laptop typing up, writing on this tender, and then that whole weekend, 3 days in the snow, Mum and I didn't move out of that room. We had one ski for I think an hour, and we were writing on, I was writing a submission, Mum was reviewing it. That was the first submission we actually got some package funding for, and I remember Dad and Brooke just couldn't believe it. They were just ribbing us the whole time. "What are you doing? You're wasting this is ridiculous." And I said, if we can pull this off, this will be a great outcome for the business and the family. And looking back, that was an important point that we actually did push through, and we did. I remember that very vividly.
I can only be in absolute awe of clearly what Mum has done, but now also seeing firsthand what Andrew does on a day-to-day basis. Even though I'm the eldest, he's clearly more mature and more experienced than me because what he tackles every day is phenomenal. He really is first class at what he does.
I think what I'm most proud of, that Andrew and I have worked together and we have made the business what it is.
And we've always complemented each other well. I've got a great respect and admiration for her skill set around operational management and being fundamentally, a very good nurse. Mum's always complimented and given me free rein on business development and systems development and getting the right people and processes and looking after the finances. And so we've always, we've just worked well. It's been a good partnership.
It just gives me so much, pleasure and delight to think that we're keeping so many people out of residential care, because my specialty in my own nursing career is palliative care, and where I've been able to provide them to have a dignified, pain-free passing, and I think that's such a privilege.
These people that have lived their life for 80 plus years, they're elders of our community, and we give them the opportunity to stay at home, and that's what makes the whole thing very rewarding.
My interest in nursing probably came from Mum, because Mum would pick up stray dogs, stray kids, stray cats, stray anything. Mum was a great carer. She loved people, she loved animals, and she would help anybody.
When Nan got older, and I used to go in and I was very close to Nan, so I had more time with her, I guess, because I was the youngest grandchild, and I had a very close bond with her, and that was something that was very special. I'd go in there certainly every weekend and just pop in there and grab her a custard tart and we'd sit down and have a cup of tea, and I used to really enjoy those times.
The loss of Mum was just awful. Still to this day. It was devastating that this is my business, looking after people at home, and I couldn't look after Mum. But I did what I could at the time. I had responsibilities everywhere, and I just couldn't give that Mum 24/7 care, because Mum was immobile. And I just had a business I was running, and where I was looking after, hundreds of people and staff, but it's something. If I've got one regret in my life, is that I couldn't look after Mum 24/7.
I think when Andrew and I delivered my Nan's eulogy when she passed away, and I wrote a prose about her, and I call it A Beautiful Person, because I don't know how else to describe her than just that she was a beautiful person. She was, except she just had a heart the size of Phar Lap and would do anything for her family. One of the things I love about bringing the kids to Mum and Dad's and being at the Valley is that it is very much like the childhood that we grew up with. It doesn't matter what's going on outside of the world, you can come into here and just have this beautiful safe haven. Maeve, similarly, I've got pictures of me sitting in Mum's flower garden, and she loves that type of thing as well. Jonah loves climbing the orange trees. What kind of childhood could you hope for than to have the freedom and just natural environment for kids to grow up in? So yeah, I feel really, really blessed.
So as a family, there's a lot of big family dinners and a lot of loud noises and sharing food and good times. The strengths within the family are also the strengths within the business, and that whole cliche of a family that plays together continues to stay together. So as well as working really hard as a family, they still have a lot of fun and ensure that they do activities together to try and nourish the good times, so that they've got that energy and re-energised to do the work that they do.
I used to chase Andrew around the house with my hairbrush, and then I'd hit him with that, and then he would pull my hair, and then he would get in trouble because you can't do that as a boy.
No, I used to have these little cars, battery operated cars, that wheels would spin. I used to throw them at Brooke's hair, so the wheels would get all tangled up, and we need to cut them out. that was my payback. But yeah, I was always in trouble for hurting Brooke.
That's right.
But she was the instigator, and
Apparently.
I took the hit.
Part of the journey in me joining the business, I think, was me not being a part of the business, if that makes sense. I very much had to go and do my own thing after university. I lived overseas twice. I worked 10 years in other companies and different jobs, and I needed to do that, I think, to probably get to a point where I felt okay with being in the business.
We desperately need her, and she's added great skill set. And I think now that particularly we all understand each other's skill set, it's working beautifully. And as someone said to me recently, these two kids of yours, you know, when they realise how, as you can imagine, they have to learn working together, they will be dynamic. So for me, as the founder of the business and their mother, how proud am I of them? I'm so proud of my children. They are the most, that's what Brian and I think, how do we make these children? Because they are, to us, perfect in every way. The most important attribute that I look for in people to be part of my team is commitment. Because if you've got the commitment and a good attitude, I can teach you everything else.
She's the strongest person I know. She's an incredible mentor.
She strives to educate people, she strives to bring the best out in people, and I think, you know, as an employee, you can't help but, you know, jump to that level with her. You know, I think that's very important.
I guess for all the staff that work for Sue, and have worked for Sue, have usually been dedicated because they know that the staff is very important to her. So, you know, we're sort of very thankful to the dedication that they've given us, you know, especially Sue's business.
The staff are extremely important to her as well, and that's reflected in the length of time many of us have stayed here. In the office here, we've had staff, you know, over 10 years. A lot of us are well over 5 years, and the same out in the field. There's a lot of people celebrating over 10 years with Sue Mann.
There's not a day that Sue comes into the office that she doesn't do the rounds of the office and speak to everybody and ask how they're going. And Sue has an open door policy, so that if you do have a problem, you can always go and speak to her.
We have wonderful staff, and yeah, look, having a team of people that support each other, and you know, when you've got the challenges on, you've got the deadlines around submissions, or you've got something, a pressure point or a crisis point, they're always there to support you, and that's something that I feel very it's a privilege to work with them, and you feel very supported.
The reputation of the company in the community's eyes, I think, is very high, and considering we are a private company rather than a not-for-profit, I think we set our goals fairly high, our standards very high, and I think it's nice to see those qualities are maintained and almost to the point of being pushed. But that's the quality of I think the company likes to see, and I think it has achieved.
The thing that makes the work ethos here so great is it's not about the individual, it's about the client. It doesn't matter what we do, so long as the client gets what they need and what they want.
Think outside the square. Always do the best that you can. Respect people the way that you'd like to be respected. So all our values are shared because we all had input into them. It wasn't drilled into us, it was our words. So.
They're my second family. The staff are very committed and very dedicated.
I love working for Sue Mann because it's a community-based business, and the staff help people out in the community, and it's a family-owned business, and they're wonderful to work for, and they look after their staff.
A standout moment, I suppose, for me was my 10th year anniversary. Sue and Andrew gave me a beautiful, gift of a week. Oh, I can't come on, sorry. Gave me a weekend in the Hunter Valley. Sorry, gave me a gift for my 10th anniversary of a weekend in the Hunter Valley, which my husband and I enjoyed very much. And that is a testament to Sue's generosity and value in her staff.
Most special thing about working in community care, particularly for me because I've only just put my toe in the water, but is actually seeing what a difference somebody going to somebody's home can make just on a day-to-day basis. What's hit me most, I think, is the process of ageing and how it can, you know, for the majority, not really be a really very nice journey. So if we can provide people with a little ray of sunshine every day to make their life just that little bit easier or a little bit more joyful, then, you know, it's a small ask on our half.
The rewards of palliative care are probably a bit like the rewards of midwifery. You only get one shot at birth and death. Just being able to be a little beacon of light to say it's going to be okay and this is what's going to happen, but we're going to do it together and it's going to be okay, and you can have a lot of say in how this happens, and you don't have to go to the big shiny hospital, and it can all just happen here at home. The relief on their faces is really huge. It's just an intrinsic reward. It's like the warm buzz. It really is. It's yeah, just being able to provide comfort to people.
So it's been, it's just been such a wonderful journey. And I love projects, I love challenges. Maybe I need to sit back and I do smell the roses because I love gardening. I absolutely adore gardening. So I've got more time for gardening. And I have smelled the roses. But maybe, I don't know, I'd like to go on another 30 years doing what I'm doing. Who knows?